How long have
Yeah.
you been working on cars? Because you're doing like crazy, like there's like people who work on cars, but you're doing like ridiculous levels of art with like reshaping the body panels and being true to like what the original vehicle was. How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I should probably like rewind even further back a little bit to make it make more sense. Like roughly 10-ish years ago, I was doing like construction work and I hated it. It was just, it was a job. It wasn't like my passion or whatever. And I ended up just like one day just leaving that. I was like screw this, I'm out. I quit. And I just picked up a detailing job at a dealership that my brother was a collision repairman at. So I did detailing for about a year there. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of want to try like the auto body stuff that looks kind of interesting. Because at the time, like in high school, like way even before then in high school, like I didn't really care much about cars. Like I liked them, but like I didn't know much about them or whatever. And then got out of high school, got into cars, and then I had some full cars and, went up through that, like, oh, what's a turbo? This is awesome kind of thing. That phase everyone gets into. They're like,
the slippery slope.
There's more to this. So yeah, I went through that phase and then I started detailing there. And then I apprenticed under my brother Brad to do collision repair work. And I realized, like, wow, like this is actually kind of fun. Like I get to like actually, because I originally wanted to do like graphic design or something like art related. So I was like, well, this is kind of like
cool.
the same thing. Like it's art related. Like you're fixing stuff too, so it's a little more satisfying. So I was there for a couple years doing that, and then realized that collision repair wasn't entirely what I wanted to do to the cars. I wanted to do more custom work and like higher end like restoration and whatnot. So my roommate at the time was telling me that his employer, Translog from Porsche, was hiring for a body man. I was like, hey, I'll try out for that. So I ended up switching over to doing that because I got hired there. And then when I was working there, Tony, he was also the co-owner of Crucible Coachworks. He's like the co-host on our YouTube channel. He was like, hey, do you wanna do like metal shaping? Because I have these like the guy's name's Lassie, Lazze. He does metal shaping in California. He does like a hot rod class and whatnot for like English wheel and everything else. He's like, this guy's really good. I have all his DVDs. You should watch these, and if you want to do it, I'll send you to one of his classes. I was like, okay, I'll try it out. That sounds kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So
that's so cool.
The day that he opens, so basically every year he opens like a, I don't know if he still does it this way now, but back then, one day a year he would open up like the what do you call it? The scheduling for his classes, and like they sell out immediately. So we immediately jumped on and got in one, and I was like, okay, great. I got into class finally, so I'm going to go do this. So I went to California, did that metal shaping class, and it like blew my mind because we had like a Harbor Freight English wheel in the shop, and then it was garbage. Like it kind of works.
I didn't even know Harbor
but
Freight
like
made
well they still do, but you can only buy it with one anvil. So like it's almost useless because you need different radiuses in the bottom. But anyway, so I went to this class, right, and realized that like this is really cool. I want to do this. This is exactly what I hyperfixate on for the rest of my life, kind of moment. and then to add to that, Lassie pulled me aside in his office and he was like, "Dude, like you're good at this. You have to do this." And I was like, "Oh, so I guess this is real now." So then when I came back, I was like, "Hey, so they said this," and Tony was like, "Well, I guess we're doing this." So at that time, Tony had this idea. He had the original idea for the slant nose 996. He's like, I have this red 996 with a blown engine that I had this magazine. He pulled it out. Actually, it's this really old magazine. I forget which magazine it was, but it has like a 935 slant nose on it, a red one.
Gotcha.
And he's like, I want to do this, but do it on a 996 instead of a the original slant nose.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's do it. So then that's when we started like, okay, I'm going to chop this thing up. I'm going to use some foam. I'm going to figure out the profiles and whatnot. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, yeah, I'm good at this. I was told I'm good at this. I can do this just fine. And yeah, it didn't go that great. Needless to say, it was a little rough. So at that point, I was like, well, this is good practice. So we were kind of like one day a month or like sometimes one day a week, we would just kind of fiddle around with it and try to figure out, okay, what we're going to do with this, if I can handle doing the metal shaping on that, what I need to learn. And then at that point, I was like, I need more training and I need more time to learn. And then I slid into, are you guys familiar with Chris Runge? He does like aluminum.
The name sounds familiar.
Like he's like polished aluminum, like Porsche based coach builds in Minnesota.
Interesting. Cool.
So he does like he does. I'm not gonna say they're one offs. I think he might do duplicates, but he does like from the ground up, like full chassis and everything too.
Wow. Okay.
So I
but like primarily like aluminum work stuff.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Because he kind of made it. He was like, I saw him on Jay Leno's garage because two of his cars were featured on it, and it was like 4 years ago, maybe. I want to say 4 years ago. And I actually had been like following his work a little bit online in general at that time. So I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna slide in this guy's DMs and see if he'll like do like a one-on-one kind of class thing, because I want to learn more, and there's not many classes around, and most of the classes were like American hot rod based or whatever, which like is not really entirely my interest. I'm more to European vehicles. So I slid into Chris's DMs, and he's like, I never say yes to people, but for some reason I'm going to say yes to you. So I was like, okay,
that's
deal.
awesome.
So cool, dude.
I don't know how that worked out either, but so yeah, I ended up going out to Minnesota for, it was like 3 or 4 days to do a one-on-one with him. And he like, so like Lassie built like the basis for it for me, and then I went to Chris Runge, and he had like an entirely different approach that like expounded upon that like substantially. Like it went from like, okay, here's like the knowledge I had, and then I took that knowledge and then like tripled it and like redistributed everything in it. So like, it's really hard to explain, but like the way that he approached it made way more sense to me than it did with Lassie. Lassie had like just an entirely different practice with it. And not that either way is wrong, because there's like a million different ways to do it, which is another thing it taught me as well. It's like, oh, there's actually more ways than one to do this. So anyway, so yeah, Chris Runge kind of like expanded the horizon with that for me. And I came back and I was like, we need to do the slant nose. Like, I got this now. We actually ended up buying Chris Runge's English wheel, which is the giant big black and red one I have in the shop that everybody Googles over.
Yeah, that thing's cool.
We'll post a photo here.
Yeah. Photo. You can put the photo of me dabbing on it or whatever you want. Because I'm a 30-year-old man in 2023 who still dabs.
30-year-old hot boy over here.
As you're talking about this, like, I had no clue that the slant nose was like your first big project insane. Like this. Because from our perspective, you're like pinnacle, super pro at this. You've been doing this forever. This is just your next project. I'm shocked that was your first one. That it's incredible, but it's so cool too that like even you saying like you went out to the class, came back, you're like, cool, I guess I'll fixate on this. It's like, wait, are all car guys the same?
Do we all like this?
We all weirdly hyper fixate on random stuff, and that's why weird. So that's interesting to hear. But dude, that's crazy. So then now you come back. You've taken the second class now, and you've had, and that's cool that it's like, oh, there's not one way. It's just get it done, and there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat there. So then you come back, and you're like, okay, we're doing the slant nose now. So like, when did that totally kick off? Like, when did you guys have that moment of, yes, we're doing this now for sure, and then getting into it?
Yeah, it's really hard to pin that exactly, because we had still been kind of picking at it. And before I left to go to Chris Runge's class, I had already had like the fender like extremely roughed in and the quarter panel roughed in. And when I say roughed in, I mean I had multiple sheets of metal that kind of like loosely bent and tacked in place so I could then do like clay work or wherever we decided to do over top of it to figure out the design. And that's what I had sent to Chris as like reference, like, here's like where I'm at, like I want to get better. What like, can you fix me please, kind of thing. And I think coming back, like being at that class and then coming back and seeing like his process and like how he woke up every morning. His shop was actually in his, like, he lived at a shop basically. It was like his little garage outside at the time on his property. And I was like, that's the life I want to live. I want to wake up and get my coffee, walk across to my old timey English wheel, and I want to bend some metal. That sounds great. So when I came back and Tony and I were talking about it, we were both like, we need to do this. Like Tony and I are a team together, obviously, and like so I can't take all the credit for the slant nose build or the other builds, but I'm more like the metal fab side, and he's more like the I'm smart mechanical side, and he knows all the math stuff. I don't like the math stuff very much. Yes, both important.
Like, I'm going to make it look pretty. You make sure it actually goes.
Exactly. And to his credit too, he has a design. We have a very similar design as well, so that's why we mesh together so well with our projects. So anyway, I think the Chris Runge class is what like springboarded me into like, okay, we need to do this kind of thing. And Tony was on board as well. And then when he came back is when we kind of hit the ground running. Okay, we're going to work at this thing more often now. I'm going to make it work, because it's obviously a huge money drain. I'm going to come in at like 4:35 a.m., work on it for 2 hours every day in the morning. And then I started doing that for a little while, and posting up like photos of it and whatnot. And this is where we kind of segue into your original question of like the media side of it and whatnot. I started to like, because at the time, like every now and then I put a photo out, on Instagram, back in the day when people like cared about photos on Instagram.
When Instagram was a photo platform.
Exactly. I was putting photos up, and every now and then something would like blow up, like, oh wow, I got 1,000 likes on that. Like, this is big for me. Like, this is people actually like the slant nose. We got to keep doing this kind of thing. So, excuse me. So that happened, and then that's when my wife was like, "Hey, you should make a TikTok," and I was like, "No, I don't want a TikTok." Like, that was at the time that like nobody really used TikTok except for the Gen Z and people with like the dance or whatever. So I was like, this doesn't make any sense, kind of thing. So I said no for a while, and then eventually I made a reel on Instagram, and it was a super simple one. It was like before after of like putting body panels on one of the track cars at the shop, and it like within 10 minutes of posting, it had like 10,000 views, and like I had like was like like my phone's like ding 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 ding. That's when I have my notifications turned on. So now they're never on, kind of thing. But then that's when I was like, okay, I guess I'll make a TikTok finally. So then I did the same thing, and I started like figuring out my formula for like what my style is and how people have short attention spans, how to make it work. And that's when like things kind of clicked. I was like, I could do kind of both things I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the graphic design, and I want to build cars. I can do both at the same time now. So that's when Tony and I put our heads together. Okay, we're going to start an LLC of Crucible Coach Works. We're going to make an actual media company. Like, we're going to actually do it right, kind of thing. So yeah, that's where we're at now. And then that's when we finally, because at the time I was like, I wanted to do YouTube, because YouTube's obviously like the major platform for long-term builds and all that stuff. But obviously, as I'm saying, obviously, like, it's obvious, but like, I think it's common knowledge now that like YouTube is very saturated and doesn't pay as well as it used to, like all those things. It's a lot more tougher to get into. But we were like, what, we're going to do this. So we hired, because at the time I was actually filming it myself. Like, I do my TikToks and whatnot, and editing it in the evenings and stuff like that, and like putting up like one video a month to see what would happen, because people have been begging on TikTok and everything else to have me make a YouTube channel. And then of course, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but if you have a YouTube channel and you mention that YouTube channel on any other platform, people don't go to that YouTube channel. And also, you're going to get throttled. I don't care what TikTok says, you get throttled when you mention YouTube 100%. Or any other platform. You'll go from like, I had
canceled.
Exactly. It's exactly what happens. Unless that clip is extremely good and they're like, okay, we're not going to throttle this one so it doesn't look bad.
Right.
It's inevitable.
Getting them to bridge the gap between the two is so hard, but
you gotta,
it's
like,
difficult.
Spell it wrong and like say it. I've seen that other people done. I think I've done it a few times too in posting of just like Lincoln bio, but like Abraham Lincoln, like bio something, like changing it up so it doesn't get. I'm sure all that stuff gets flagged too, but.
Exactly. Elite speak is your friend. Put zeros for the O's and all that stuff. So then that's when we hired Logan, which is actually Tony's son, and he had interest in filming and editing for us. So he learned on the job and has been doing that for the past year. And as of lately, actually, things are moving. It took a while, but we're there now. I say there.
Yeah, I was just actually looking at stuff.
We're approaching.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking at. I don't know if I remember when you guys started the YouTube or if I just remember when I noticed that you guys had the YouTube and we're looking at it. But I was looking at it either yesterday or this morning. I was like, holy cow, it's like blowing up.
Yeah. Yep. Like
it's awesome.
It's been sweet. And like
which is not surprising. I mean, we saw, I don't know who found it. You probably found it first, the slant nose thing.
Yeah. And you were all over my algorithm, dude. Because like we were kind of the same. Like, we started the show and then it just took a lot of work to get TikToks and stuff out. And so we were like, well, we'll just do audio and video and that's it. And then we cut video for a while. And then we're like, well, that's the only way we're going to grow. And we kind of all, I think, got TikTok because same deal. Our wives were like, this is great. You should get one. Yeah. And then we had it just to consume, but we didn't put anything on for a while. And then it was just that, like, you were all over mine. And I just kept like, this is nuts to see. Like, I didn't know people, I don't know, like everybody's doing like Liberty Walk kits or like eBay fender flares and stuff like that. And then here you are like, trying to capture the essence of like how Porsche would have approached a slant
I didn't know that existed.
And
maybe it doesn't. And you're the only. I mean, you're the only one I've seen who does that. And like does the total. It's basically like the hot rod thing, like you said. Like there's probably a lot of spaces like that where they're custom doing the metal and stuff. But like for European cars, and as they would be for European cars, because it's very easy to take a European car and make it JDM, right? And those are sick too. Like love that stuff. But it's very difficult to like continue, I feel like, the curves and like the character of a European car and still make it sick and modify it.